Hello and welcome to AXSChat. We're delighted to have Sebastian Flores with us today. Sebastian is working for Comparlante Fundación and is coming to us from Quito in Ecuador. Welcome, Sebastian. It's great to have you with us. Can you tell us a little bit about Comparlante and your journey into accessibility?
Hi, thanks to the AXSChat team for inviting me to share this powerful platform, and welcome to everyone who's accessing to this video by any means. Yes, first of all, a little about myself. I was born here in Ecuador, in Quito, but I grew up in Caracas, Venezuela, where I studied my school, high school, and the first 6 semesters of my university until returning to Ecuador. And well, I obtained my degree in diplomacy and international affairs. And I have been working in the accessibility world. I think even without knowing since I was a child, but professionally, and since I was 19 years old when I was called to the UNESCO for the managing of projects for the inclusion of students with disabilities in Latin American and the Caribbean region with the UN system. And I have been working in several projects, social projects, media projects, and policy making process, both locally, regionally, and internationally. And well, one of the biggest adventures of my life, it's Comparlante, which I will explain you the name later. Uh, it's a startup made of uh, young entrepreneurs from 7 countries in Latin America who want to make of this world a better place for everyone, a world more accessible, and what we call a non-disabled world for any person. We work in different areas from entrepreneurship to the supporting of the policy-making process and the recognition and full implementation of the rights of persons with disabilities through innovation and, connecting as we are currently here in AXSChat to make a huge impact on people's life.
Okay, that's quite some big remit you've got there. So one of the things that really interests me about Compalante is the fact that you are doing this across a number of Latin American countries, and that's something that really interests me because obviously a lot of the people that we talk to are doing stuff in their own individual countries. You're doing it across a number of countries. So can you explain how that's working and whether there or not there are any sort of tensions between the different countries that make it a challenge to deliver accessibility?
Absolutely. Well, we definitely do not believe in barriers. So why we should become one? So us, as young people, want to make things happen. We are tired of hearing people just complaining and like, well, when things are gonna change? No, now it's the time, and we are the persons not with the solution in our hands, but with all the intention to make things a bit different. And well, all this started in 2015. Comparlante was found in Argentina. My partner, Lorena Julio, is from Argentina. And she began this project as audiobook library, accessible audiobooks. And that's where it comes the name. Comparlante, it's a mix of two Spanish words, compartir, which is sharing, and parlante, which is the talking characteristic. So the idea is that we want to project that our books are talking and you can share it and create it collaboratively. And well, and I met her in Panama at the Presidential Summit of the Americas in 2015, and we start chatting. We were in the same place, but all the people around presidential summit and all the activity. So I was working at the education commission, and she were working with the Organization of American States in the organizing of the whole event. So we start chatting each other on internet, and well, I saw what you were doing, and yes, I saw about your project Comparlante. Well, let's come together, let's make it much bigger with a higher impact. So we got in contact with young entrepreneurs from Chile, Costa Rica, El Salvador, Uruguay, Venezuela, and Ecuador, and and in Argentina, of course. And well, we decided to make this platform to work on a new way. So nowadays, practically every person use internet for different things. And well, we were thinking, why if we start working like we are an office and a company with all the functions, with all the schedules, and all the responsibilities of an enterprise, but through internet. And with this way, we can have the impact we need locally, and we can collaborate for that regionally and international impact at the same time. So that's what it's really the most interesting thing about our project. We have multilateral impact and under the same goal, with the power of different young people from different backgrounds with different professions and likes and needs. So that's what it gives the project, and that reality or that power, because it's connected to different realities, different worlds at the same time.
No, it's great to have you here with us on AXSChat, Sebastian. I'm really curious about uh, the type of impact and relationship that you were able to build with business, trying to improve accessibility on their side, and at the same time, uh, groups of people with disabilities who also need sometimes the same time of assistance to make their website accessible. Can you tell us about how you managed your relationships with them, and how they were able to see you as someone that can help them to bring their sites to a broader range of people?
Okay, for us, the web accessibility is one of the main goals we want to achieve for a better world for everyone. Um, One of the services that we have in Comparlante is the accessibility web designing and consulting. I would like to explain you better the wide range of services we have. But focusing on the accessibility or our websites and apps, um, we work in connection with companies, governments, with anyone who wants to make their website more accessible and give access to all the people. And at the same time, we work in the awareness process, because you can advertise. You want to make your website more accessible for everyone, just contact Comparlante. But what happens when you are working on a context in which people, companies, governments do not understand the importance of bringing their products, their services, their websites to other persons, regardless of their physical or cognitive needs? And where is the point, the real point of making this decision, of taking this step to make it more accessible? So we work in those areas, let's say at the same time. Um, for example, if you contact us and you ask, well, what's the status, the real condition of my website. It can be navigable for a blind or deaf person. So we make this study of your website and we offer you an strategy to change, to adapt, and to build a more friendly space for persons, not only on the technical view, but also what you can earn and what you can offer and what you can get of this experience. Because usually people think that making things more accessible for persons with disabilities is just a matter of uh, inclusion and just because we have to do it. But if I tell you that, for example, and you have out there people with disabilities who could buy your products, that are able to access to your what you're offering, to your services or whatever. So, but if they don't have the best conditions to access to your store or to your office, you are missing that opportunity. You are missing customers. So we work very hard on that matter of awareness. And well, we offer this through this service, the perfect strategy for your own company, for your own product, so you can adapt it to everyone.
Is there any type of stories that you can tell us where while you were doing advocacy, sometimes we have business who don't really understand what accessibility means. So can you tell us a bit about the stories that you were able to have from having that type of relationship with business and doing advocacy in order to improve their awareness on accessibility?
Comparlante has been working with different actors from society, from companies that, for example, work on the developing of games for children, so they can offer a new tool for education, and also to uh, international organizations, which is the case of the Organization of American States, of the UN, and we have worked in different strategies for them and making them to understand the process of making spaces more friendly and democratizing participation depending on the specific area. And well, we also have been in contact with individuals, for example, people who have their own personal web page or social media, or even entrepreneurship. And we are really proud to be supporting the entrepreneurship uh, culture in Latin America, and because we make entrepreneurs to focus their power in making things more accessible and giving opportunity to everyone to develop themselves in in equity. So because we truly believe in accessibility, because inclusion by itself does not solve the main problem, or does not solve the all the barriers and challenge people with disabilities face day by day.
So, Sebastian, this is Deborah Rue, and thank you so much for being on the program. I do want to do a quick little shout out for all the victims of the hurricane that we've seen hitting the United States and Mexico and the Caribbean islands and stuff. I know that Ecuador was not in the path, so I'm really glad you are safe. But of the 6 countries that you included, you're including, it sounds like, Latin and Central American countries. One question I would have, I have a couple of questions, but one question I would have, what if other countries want to join, other Central American or Latin countries? I would be curious how they could get involved. I'm also curious about, so it sounds like you're looking at accessibility from both a physical perspective as well as internet communications and technologies. And so I'm curious if that's true. And then a big shout out to Ecuador, because I don't know if our viewers know this, but Ecuador has spent a lot of time becoming accessible. Ecuador has one of the most accessible airports in the world. They've just had such leadership coming out of Ecuador, including one of my favorite people, Ambassador Luis Gallegos, who has been a huge supporter of the rights of persons with disability in the convention. And there's just a lot of leadership coming out of Ecuador. So, Sebastian, you're just one of those other leaders. And also like that you're speaking from the voice of younger people to make sure that people with disabilities are being included in the workforce. But are you looking at this just, and I shouldn't say just, but both physically and internet communications and technology?
Well, I want to say to all the persons in the United States, Mexico, and all the areas affected that our prize and our best wishes and vibes are with them and their families. And
Yes.
thank you for referring to my country and Latin America region, because we actually are doing amazing things on terms of inclusion and accessibility. Most of them are not spotlight, like it's happening in the English speaking side of the world, but we actually are doing absolutely wonderful things.
I agree.
Perhaps we do not have all the resources and tools available in other areas of the world, but we are creating new strategies, new spaces for participation, and trying to make something a little bit different from of comparing to past generations. Um, well, when you were talking about join this community, this team, well, we invite all the time people from all the world, not just from Latin American, but from all the world, to uh, to start making things happen. Okay, so you can make the big difference from making accessible your posts and tweets to even contacting us through social media, through our webpage, or in the events we participate around the world, and just letting us to know what you want to make, what you have to offer, and what's your idea or your wishes or your needs, and we can create a solution, or we can start thinking on a tool to make that happen. We truly believe in the collaboration. We believe in the impact we have when we come together. Uh, we are young people and working in different areas with different dreams, with different needs. And in that matter, we think that we must exploit or take those characteristics into the same path, under the same goal, and put them to work. So we do not have, as I told you previously, the right answer for all the things, or the solution for all the things, but we are convinced that working together we can do it. So if anyone from Central America or any other part of the world want, just yeah, and we will make it happen. And well, we work, yes, through internet and technology, but we also think that it is important to connect with the territory, with those persons who do not have access to internet, who do not have access to technology, because their context in which they are living does not have those possibilities, or because of age or other reasons. But well, we we think that the key is connecting both worlds. If we can work on internet for solutions for the not internet world, and the other way, hey, that's much better. That is a true solution which involves all the people in all the realities.
Okay. So, how many people currently are working as part of Comparlante, and is it split evenly between the various different geographical locations that you're operating in?
And we are currently a team of 10 people, but we don't like to say that we are only 10. We are like, millions and millions and millions of people, because you and everyone who's watching and listening this interview is part of Comparlante already.
Okay, now that's great. And you just talked about the fact that you do offline as well as online work. So you're going into the field. Are you working with government and internet providers to try and help get people access where they don't already? Because obviously there is this digital divide. There's not just the divide of accessibility, but there's the divide of those that have access to the internet and those that don't. So before you can even do digital accessibility, you've got to have the availability. Are you working with any of the government organizations to facilitate that, or is it a case of that's something that you're aspiring to?
What's the That's precisely the coolest thing about Comparlante. We work not only on internet and the services we provide through our platform, but also working with universities, working with international organizations, getting in contact with governments and companies to work in those areas which are not still covered. So, regarding the connectivity of the world to internet, um, our plans and the way in which we are building that strategy is to work with um, through the volunteers, through universities, through entrepreneurs working on the field, so we can come with an idea or a way to connect people to internet, and after that giving them accessibility to all the things they can get through the web. So even if someone who's watching this interview is working in that area and wants to join us, welcome. We are more than pleased to connect and come together under the same goal. As I was telling you, Comparlante works in different areas. One of them is our services, which are available through www.comparlante.com, and from consulting on accessibility to the design of websites and mobile apps and all the digital things on an accessible format. And we also work in other areas such as the design, graphic design, or the training of young entrepreneurs who want to create accessible entrepreneurships, or persons with disabilities who want to become entrepreneurs. So we train them. And at the same time, we work as a team on international scenarios regarding the UN and the OIS and other regional and international platforms. And we also create different products and projects, which is example of the cartoons and characters and stories of My Word, My Way, so we can connect with children, or the marketplace Incluyes, which is a wonderful space for persons with disabilities to access to services and products adapt to their needs. And we can, through this platform, include not persons with disabilities, but the whole world into the path of accessibility. So as you can see, we work in many places, in many areas, and we have not limits. So that's the coolest thing about us, I think.
Sebastian, we have so many technologies now coming to market, virtual reality, augmented reality, a lot of conversations about smart cities and sensors. What type of this type of technologies would I say excite you more in terms of applications to help people with disabilities?
Well, working in the path of smart cities, um, I truly believe that those technology devices and platforms who work the best for persons with disability are those which give you, freedom and that possibility of developing yourself without the need of another person, or that's the most important thing for a human being, to be independent, to be a person, who not don't depend on others to move through the city. And in that matter, we have worked in the case of Comparlante, and in the context of the UN Habitat 3 conference, where we delivered a speech and in that UN event here in Ecuador, and we have been working in that area also at the UN in New York. And at the same time, not specifically Comparlante, but in my case, as a person and advocate, I have been working in different projects, which is one of those examples is Sea of Change Film. It's a global project held by young people who want to show authorities how hard it's for a blind or partially sighted person to cross the city because of all the barriers and all the obstacles in the paths and the buildings and everywhere around us
We
with
know
our
Sea of
cell
Change.
phones.
Yeah,
Absolutely, it's a
yeah,
great
yeah.
example.
Familiar with Sea of
Yes,
Change, and we interviewed, we had access chat with Chris Holmes some
yes, Lord Chris
long time ago.
Holmes.
Yeah.
Yes, he has been a wonderful supporter of our campaign. In the month of November in 2016, I was in the UK as part of the 2016 UK tour, and I had a meeting with Lord Chris Holmes at the House of Lords in the UK Parliament, and well, it's amazing all the things that have been working. The guys of the team there in terms of share space and all the things we need. So um, I think that the most important thing to do is to work in different areas at the same time, because solutions are not only in one place. Solutions can be um, formed up from different actors, from different realities, because our world it's so wide, and we cannot look for the solution in just one place. So if we can work both with the people with their cell phones walking around the streets, and at the same time we can be working at the parliament and international organizations, and with the law makers, uh, we are closer to better solutions, and in the future to a better and world and a not disabled one.
I know I have not had the pleasure to visit the House of Lords, but Lord, we were really, really just thrilled to have him on the program. That was really impressive. I just want to ask you a real short question, because I know we're almost out of time, and we want to be sure to thank our supporter, Barclays. I'm going to let Neil go into that a little bit more. But you mention a lot about young people, and so a few comments. I really love how the young people are standing up and saying, I need to be included. I want to be independent. But at the same time, and maybe it's just because I'm one of those older people, but I think we also want to make sure that we are including older people in the conversations too, because
Absolutely.
I find often people with disabilities that are older, around my age and older, they were just always left out. And so I think they have a lot to offer the conversation. And I know you're not saying, I know you agree with me, Sebastian, but I have talked to quite a few, older people around the world, and sometimes they do feel left out of the conversation. So I think there's something that we can do as societies to pull them together. I also want to just make one comment. About there are, I believe, about 20% of the United States citizens speak Spanish, and we often are finding in the United States that we're not supporting and making things accessible for our citizens that speak Spanish. So I really like the leadership once again that we're seeing from Comparlante there in Ecuador and other countries, because what you're doing in your societies will allow us in the United States and other countries that have Spanish speakers to better meet the needs of Spanish speakers with disabilities. So I was just wondering very quickly if you could talk about the work that you're doing and how it can support other countries like, the United States and other large countries that aren't involved.
Yes, thank you, Deborah. Absolutely, something that happens, and yes, I am part of those speeches too. Is that usually we focus on the power of young people because that's the way to inspire more persons from newer generations to take part. But something I always say, and I take this from my TEDx talk. I'm a TED speaker. For global problems, we need global solutions. And part of that is to include all persons from all generation, no matter of their age, and stop thinking that just because we are young and we have new ideas, those ideas are the best, and older people and old conceptions are wrong. No, that's not that way. So we have to include all visions because, hey, this is our same home. This world is the place for everyone, so everybody comes. And yes, it's so important to make people, Spanish speakers in non-Spanish speaker countries, to know that there are people like them working in Spanish speaking countries to make things happen, and they can connect them, more easily because and they're talking in the same language. And a big news or something that really makes me happy to announce through this platform is that currently Comparlante is working on its establishment in the United States as an organization, as a foundation we are. So we can work closely to the Latin American community in all United States. We are making this process of establishing our foundation in the District of Columbia, so we can work with every person, and English speaking persons and Spanish speaking person and everyone, because that's the key of our mission, to get connect and to make things happen. So I'll be really glad to welcome entrepreneurs, to welcome young and older people to join us and to start doing real things to change how this disabled world yet.
Yeah, fantastic. That's great news and very good timing. Seeing as Deborah asked the question, so it's really good that you're able to expand your presence into the US. We are out of time now, so it's been a great pleasure chatting with you and finding out about your work, and we're really looking forward to you joining us tomorrow on Twitter for the chat. It remains for me to say thank you to Barclays Access, who are supporting us and helping us with a number of things, including getting the captions done more quickly. Their support is very valuable to us, and we're really pleased to be part of a large community of organizations that are working to a common cause. So thank you very much, Sebastian. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and we look forward to you joining us on Twitter tomorrow.
Thank you so much. Pleasure is all mine. Gracias a todos. Thank you to everyone.